In this video, I'm going to answer the most common question out there: how can I lose belly fat? I'm answering this so you have all the strategies and understand the science of this complex problem, so you can get lean yourself, or better yet, help your nutrition clients lose fat in those stubborn areas. There are 5 main things to consider when trying to lose belly fat, and I'm going to leave the most important till the end, so hang around for that. But let's start with number 1. Number 1, spot reduction. In an ideal world, we could wave a magic wand and we would lose fat wherever. Obviously, most of the time, this would mean losing belly fat. And for many, this is for aesthetic reasons. If you've never had a six-pack, which is me for most of my life, this is something that you've long dieted and exercised for. I totally get it. But unfortunately, we don't really lose fat on our bodies selectively. Spot reduction is the idea that with a specific type of exercise or a supplement or a pill, you will drop body fat in one area of your body. But fat loss doesn't really work like that. You can't really control it that way. But there are still things that you can do to make it more likely that you will lose belly fat, and I'm going to show you those now. But here's what they aren't though. They aren't, number 1, specific exercises. This one is tough to wrap your head around because in order to grow your arms, you need to do specific exercises like curls. But this isn't the same thing for fat loss, especially not belly fat. Although you can do a bunch of sit-ups or crunches to target your ab muscles, and they will get stronger and maybe even bigger in size, this doesn't really reveal them, especially not in the sense that the fat around them melts away. This is a concept that works for muscle gain, but a myth when it comes to fat loss. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't train your midsection, but it's not going to burn belly fat. And that's the same case for many creams and waist trimmers. These are tools and gimmicks that are marketed towards people that want to lose belly fat. And they are smart marketing because people really want to solve this problem, but they fall short in the fact that they don't work, which is sort of strange because in theory they should work, and this is why. The reason why belly fat is so easy to gain and so hard to lose has a lot to do with the order in which we gain fat. See, your body is smart. It wants to store fat in the easiest places first, which also means that it's the last to go or be taken away from. Don't think of this as an elusive thing, it's just the last to go. Stubborn fat in general is the last to go, and from a scientific perspective, we're not entirely sure why, but it could have to do with blood flow and metabolically active tissues. Now, when it comes to reducing belly fat, there are 2 main types. The first one is subcutaneous fat. It's that annoying belly fat that covers your abs. This is more of a visual thing and doesn't really impact your overall health. But the other type of visceral fat is much more problematic for your health. Visceral fat, which is found deep around your abdominal organs, increases chronic inflammation and blood clots, and puts you at a higher risk of developing metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes. How much visceral fat is bad? That's tough to assess because it's not visual, it's stored deep in your organs. But we can get a rough idea from waist circumference measurements. When visceral fat typically starts to become problematic is when your waist circumference measurement is larger than roughly 31 inches for females or 37 inches for males. And quick side note, waist circumference is measured with a flexible measuring tape around your belly button without any bulky clothing. So losing belly fat, it isn't all aesthetic, which brings me to the second thing we need to consider here because it's effective in reducing visceral fat, which is number 2, exercise. Research has shown that exercise is effective in reducing visceral fat, and this actually happens without noticeable weight loss. Exercise just reduces the visceral fat around your organs. And it doesn't mean doing specific exercises that target the midsection. We're just talking about general exercise, which from most governmental guidelines means around 150 total minutes per week. For my clients, this means 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training and 1 to 2 cardio sessions depending on their goals, with this sneaky effective exercise being used whenever possible, simply ramping up the effect of low intensity movement, which comes mainly through increasing their steps. This increases the amount of calories someone burns through non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. When you think about the hard work that goes into dropping a bunch of belly fat, you probably think about grueling high intensity workouts, but it doesn't need to be this way. And if anything, the thought of that could be holding you back from dropping more belly fat. See, if you're already doing weight training, adding in more intense workouts can be tough to stick to. But from an adherence standpoint, adding in a few extra 1,000 steps per day can be pretty easy. Research from population-based data showed that when you take 8,000 plus steps per day, you actually don't gain weight. So for most people, if you want to lose more belly fat, just add more steps in. The average sized person can burn almost 200 calories per hour just walking at a casual pace, which isn't tough to sustain and can be scheduled in. And all these calories add up and are very important in the pursuit of dropping belly fat. If there's one thing that you can directly control when trying to lose belly fat, it's number 3, sleep. Now, lack of sleep has been linked to obesity and a decrease in health markers, but recently this has been shown to impact body fat even further, specifically how a lack of sleep impacts where we store fat. A recent study took 12 adults that typically sleep around 7.5 hours per night and put them under 2 sleep conditions in a controlled laboratory setting for 14 days. The 2 conditions were a sleep restricted condition, which was around 4 hours of sleep per night, weight or a control group who slept around 9 hours per night. And during the 14 days, they could eat whatever they wanted. What they found was the sleep restricted group, they ate almost 300 more calories per day. So they gained weight, which wasn't surprising, but it was around a half kilo or 1 pound during this period. But more of this fat came from visceral fat in the control group. So when you don't sleep enough, you're more likely to gain belly fat, provided you're in a calorie surplus. It may be overstepping, but a lack of sleep, that might be preventing some people from losing belly fat as well. Keep in mind, people come in different shapes and sizes, and where you store fat or your fat patterning is going to be mostly dependent on genetics and hormones. Some of this you can't control. However, you can control how much you sleep, so you need to prioritize it. Everyone requires a different amount, but most healthy individuals are going to sleep anywhere between 6 to 9 hours per night. So if you fall under that range, start with adding in an additional hour. It may help you lose some unwanted belly fat as well as be what's best for your overall health. Next thing you want to do is consider number 4, alcohol intake. Here's the deal, I'm by no means against alcohol consumption, and as the great Jamie Foxx and T-Pain said, don't blame it on the alcohol. And although I'm drinking less as I get older, there's no reason why you can't drink alcohol and live a healthy life. And there's no reason why you can't drink and get leaner. But belly fat can be a little bit different. The concept of the beer belly isn't just folklore. Close your eyes for a second and think about your grandfather. Does he have a beer belly? Probably. Now, alcohol isn't inherently fattening. There's nothing magical about drinking that makes you gain fat. But at a certain level, fat loss, especially belly fat, is all about compromise. And since for the most part, alcohol is just empty calories, not supplying any meaningful nutrients, it's low on the list of priorities. And if my primary goal is dropping belly fat, I'm gonna avoid calories that don't really help me, as well as might impact the rest of my decision making when it comes to food. Alcohol is really good at helping you make less than desirable food decisions. For my clients, if this means dropping belly fat is the primary goal, we're gonna limit alcohol consumption to around 1 to 2 drinks at max per week. So we have spot reduction, exercise, sleep, and alcohol, leaving us with the most important thing to consider, number 5, a calorie deficit. This is the least interesting of all the variables, but the most important. To lose fat tissue, you need to create a calorie imbalance that draws from your fat tissues. This means eating less calories than you're burning. And when it comes to losing belly fat specifically, it isn't so much a process about how to lose belly fat, but when. Because it's going to be the last to go in many cases. If you want to lose belly fat, you have to commit to the process long enough to lose it. And the best way to do this is to eat a moderate protein diet that puts you in a calorie deficit, and eat foods that you enjoy that fit within your goals and your macronutrient requirements long enough to make it happen. And there's no getting around this. Now, depending on your genetics and hormones, this may take longer. This is why some people have shredded midsections and carry more fat in their legs or lower bodies, or have really lean arms but have a beer belly. We're all different. And there's been research to support that genetics play a significant role in our fat storage, with certain areas of our body like our midsections being resistant to fat loss. Most individuals tend to lose belly fat last, making it particularly challenged to develop a slim and lean midsection. But I can't emphasize this enough, to drop any sort of body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. That way you lose fat from all areas of your body, including your belly. You can create a calorie deficit by decreasing the amount of calories coming in through your food, or moving more and burning more calories. This creates a calorie imbalance, meaning you're taking in less calories than you're burning, and you're now in a calorie deficit. In many cases, attacking this equation from the calories inside is the most effective, because it's easier to overeat calories than it is to under-exercise. But theoretically, you can and should do it both ways, and this is how you're gonna lose body fat overall. Chances are it'll still take a lot longer to lose belly fat. Now, there are other dietary considerations that'll help you lose belly fat. Eating adequate protein will help keep you full because it's really satiating. Also, losing weight at an acceptable rate at 1 to 2 pounds per week. Getting slower the leaner you get will make sure that the weight that you are losing is going to be coming from fat and not muscle. Lastly, you don't really need to be eating any special foods to lose belly fat, but don't avoid any either, because losing belly fat is all about patience. And that will be easier to do when you're eating the foods that you actually enjoy eating. And that's it, folks. That's how to lose belly fat, explained by me, Dr. Mark. But as great as all those tips are, if you're really serious about starting a nutrition coaching business, the next thing I'll have you do is check out this video I've linked up right here. As a nutrition coach, you need to know about the new group of weight loss drugs, injectable weight loss medication. This is the future, and the science is very important. So check it out right now, and I'll see you in the next video.